As I mentioned in my previous video, in this video we want to see exactly what is happening with these two line items. Now it says 7% growth in the sales volume for accessories and 7% growth in the sales volumes for moldings. Now I think students would have definitely picked up this relevant benefit. It's obvious that Sentinel sales are increasing by 7%. But I bet many students would have forgotten about this increase here, and that would have probably been if you had not come to grips with the scenario or you did not read the information clearly. Now, if you go to page 44 of your module, the second paragraph, that's where we get this information from. It tells us that first it says that sales are expected to increase by 7%, which is this over here, and then it tells us the last sentence says this should have a corresponding increase in sales of the products sold by moldings and accessories divisions and on repairs. And what that means is that also the external sales of these two divisions, so the external sales of these two divisions will increase by the 7%. Now, some would say that that sentence is a little bit vague, that it does not refer to the external sales. But what else would it refer to? I mean, if we know that the production volumes would increase by 7% for the Sentinel, but those are referred to as internal transfers. So the only sales that they can be talking about is the external sales. And also this makes sense because those external sales are linked to the sales of the Sentinel. There must be some relationship between those two. That's what the business model is. That is what the business model is. And so let's go back to our organizational structure that I looked at in the previous video to determine, well, what were the external sales to begin with, and how can we determine this relevant benefit? It's difficult to see that thought process from this calculation here, so let's go there. Okay, so this is what I did in the previous video, and here we can see, for instance, external sales of the molding division was 25%, external sales of accessories 70%. Let's get a different color. So we want to look at those numbers there. Now, the first thing you would notice is that they just give us the percentages. They don't give us actual quantities. We know that this will increase by 7%. It's corresponding to the increase in Sentinels sold. So we know that this increases by 7%. But as I said, we don't have the quantities. Now, when you're in an exam setting and you realize that you don't have the information or it wasn't given to you, you must always know that there's a way to calculate it. And you must look at, well, what information has been given to you so that we can calculate it, because there's always enough information. It's just that you need to find the information that's been given. And if we look at this structure or this picture that I've basically drawn here, what we see is that we know that for accessories, our internal transfers to assembly, which is equal to 24% of total production, is equal to 13,000. And so we have enough information here to calculate the total production for accessories. So the total production is equal to 13,000 divided by 24%. So if we did those calculations quickly, 13,000 divided by 24, 24%, you get total production is equal to 54,167 units. This is the total production of our assembly or our accessories division. So accessories. Now we know that 70% of our total production is sold externally, so that we can calculate that number. Our external sales is equal to 70% of total production, which is equal to 70% times 54,167 units. So if we calculate that times 0.7, we get external sales is equal to 37917 units. This is what we would sell externally from the accessories division under the status quo where we have the sales function. Now, if we were to outsource our sales function, that number would increase by 7%. So the difference between outsourcing and the status quo would be 37917 times 7%, and that's equal to 2,654 units. So this is our relevant quantity. This is the number of units of external sales we will sell more than what we would have had we kept our sales function. Now, so now the relevant cost, if we go back to, or the relevant benefit would be the contribution margin we get per unit we sell from the accessory department. So let's go back to our analysis, and that is what is calculated here. So that's our selling price. We exclude selling expenses. That's what that 97% is. And then we subtract the variable costs to get a contribution margin per unit. And here you can see that fraction. What we basically did is we divided by 24% and multiplied by 70%, as we did with our numbers. So what's that amount to? So 2,850, 2,850 times 97%. Minus 450 is equal to Rand 2,314.5. So let's take that to our previous calculation. So the relevant benefit is equal to 2,300 times 2,654 units. And so if we take that number, we get 654. We get our relevant benefit as per the solution of 6,142,000. Okay. So let's look at that 6.1 million, 6.142 million. Okay, and it's got 6.143. It must be probably different due to rounding. But that's how you would have calculated it. And basically what this here represents, this fraction here, is this process where I know that 13,000 is equal to 24% of total production, and external sales is equal to 70% of total production, and that's how we calculate our units. So that's how it's done. Perhaps you can use this diagram to look at how we got to the relevant benefit for the moldings division. using the same logic and thought process.